All right. Anybody can begin talking about the rebel mascot and the Confederate flag.
All right, I'll start. I believe that the rebel mascot for the public school in Georgia should be taken away, and that's because if you look at the imagery of what the mascot looks like, what comes to mind to me, and I'm sure it does to you, is an old white cracker that happens to be a plantation owner, and plantation owner is oftentimes correlated to slavery. I think if we get rid of that, that'll completely end the whole Confederate-themed persona of the school. If we don't have a rebel-themed mascot anymore, then what is the need for the Confederate flag? So basically, getting rid of the flag will become irrelevant, knocking out two birds with one stone. But if the flag continues to come to sporting events and school-run events, then I believe we should take further strides to abolish it from school properties.
So you want to get rid of both of them, but you feel that it's not necessary to forcibly take away the Confederate flag?
Correct. I believe it is fair through the First Amendment to hold the Confederate flag because I don't believe it symbolizes slavery. I believe it symbolizes the history of the South.
So you're not completely saying get rid of both. You're saying get rid of one, the other one.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, I disagree on the point that it's purely a historical symbol. I feel like that it is just plainly a support of that time period. Like, it was emerged from a nation that was willing to fight for their right to own another person. That's just simply what it was created in. So I feel like no matter what, it's always going to be tied to that. And you can still remain for historical purposes, but I don't feel like there should be any support of it in a school environment.
So you want to get rid of it too?
I want to get rid of both of them.
Then you're leader.
But that's all right. You can stay there. Because now it's basically Hooli against the world.
I'm
the only person.
Why is
Good argument.
Why would you want to keep both?
Why do I want to keep both?
Yeah.
I want to keep the flag, first of all, because I see it as, I feel like it's all about perspective. A lot of people see it as slavery and oppression, but it can also be seen as Southern pride and Southern heritage. Again, the war in itself, the Confederates, it wasn't all about slavery. A lot of it was about protecting their own state and their own homeland from invasion, so it doesn't have to be seen as a negative. It could also be seen as something that Southerners are proud of to have and to show, because it's something that was important to them and to their ancestors in history. So I don't think that it has to be seen as a negative.
What about the mascot?
The mascot, a lot of people also see that it could be a racist slave owner, and it also, like I said, it's all about perspective. It doesn't have to be that way. It could have been a Southern gentleman. They didn't even have to have slaves because not everybody at that time had to have slaves. So I feel like it all has to do about perspective, that if people want to see the negatives, that's what they'll see, but you could also see the positives and what it could mean to the school.
Well, on the sheet it says that specifically it's a cartoonish plantation owner.
Yeah, it is a plantation owner, but that doesn't mean that it had to be a racist that treated slaves horribly and that agreed
The
with
term
slavery.
rebel, like a Southern rebel, was this person who was for slavery to expand.
Anti-government person is
Yeah.
what a rebel is, fighting against.
Yeah. But a lot of times they were just fighting.
I
to
agree with
protect
what you're
themselves.
saying about the perspective,
Mhm.
but since this is a public school, and I don't think that it's fair to have that symbol represent the school, because to some people they could really see that as offensive. And if that's the school that you're going to, I don't feel like you would be proud to. Some people really probably wouldn't be proud to have that mascot as their representing their school. So I would sign a petition to change the mascot, because I think there's so many other good options out there besides having something as controversial as that. And I wouldn't sign it to completely ban the Confederate flag, because like you were saying, it's all about perspective. What I was reading is, when I was reading those website links, a lot of people were saying that to them it represented their families who had fought in the Civil War. And when we were learning about the Civil War, there was plenty of Southerners who fought for the Confederacy, but didn't necessarily believe in slavery. They were like fighting to protect their families or to bring honor to their families. So I think that by not banning it, if you change the mascot, that it would, well, people wouldn't really bring Confederate battle flags to sporting events anymore. And if people still did that, then I think you could maybe think about banning it. But I don't think it's fair to ban it outright.
Yeah, I agree with Caroline because, the plantation owner only really represents slavery and not much else because, that's what plantation owners did. And plantation owner is like the school's official mascot, the mascot given by the school. But the Confederate flag is something that the students are bringing. So the Confederate flag isn't like the flag of the school. So I think that the flag should be allowed to stay, but they should probably change the mascot. Like, for example, Ole Miss, Mississippi State or whatever, they changed their mascot from a plantation owner to a bear, and they're doing fine. So it's definitely a feasible option. So yeah, I think the Confederate flag should stay though, because if my grandfather had died fighting for the Confederate flag, but he didn't believe in slavery, I would definitely have a Confederate flag because that represents, like somebody that gave their life fighting to protect their home, not necessarily just protecting slavery.
So what you're saying is, if we get rid of the plantation owner, just that, then it will take away the negative kind of implication of the Confederate flag, and it will go to a more positive side of it, where people fought for what they believed in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Will it be that way for everybody? Will everybody look at it that
There's
way?
still going to
Probably
always
not
be
everybody,
that
but-
But I
negative
think that
feeling
going back
around
to
that
the
flag
First
and its
Amendment
history.
thing, I think that changing the school mascot wouldn't be a violation of anyone's First Amendment.
Schools don't have amendment
School,
rights.
yeah,
Mhm.
school. Yeah.
First
I think-
Amendment is for people, not for
Yeah, so I
communities.
think it would, I just don't understand why the school would keep the rebels thing if people are getting upset about it, but the.
Oh, but don't schools have a lot of pride in their mascot?
Yeah,
I mean, aren't mascots a huge part of schools?
yeah.
Especially and we'll talk about this later when we talk about Indian mascots.
But to have yeah, that's true.
I mean, trying to get schools to change, and I went to a school that did change. I mean, you can go to a Marquette University basketball game. No matter what, sometime in the middle of the game, the chant "Warriors" is going to come out. All right, they're the Golden Eagles, but Warriors is what people associate them with. Okay, imagine if there's other problems with Native American nicknames, and people look at it as, it's the lineage, it's the heritage, or whatever. You like the Redskins, Cleveland Indians, Kansas City Chiefs, things like that. Colleges the same way. Schools feel the same way about it, and that school could feel that, hey, this is about the heritage, this is about the history of our area. Maybe the people who founded the school or organized that first public school. Who knows?
Well, if they want to keep the name Rebels, I think they should probably get like a different picture. Yeah.
What if it was a soldier, a Confederate soldier,
Yeah,
That would be better.
who openly took up arms against the government?
I don't think so. I don't believe
I guess-
that. I don't believe anything that shows. Okay.
Okay. I guess I was just arguing kind of what Mr. Taft said, just because I feel like even though here in the north we might see it as like something horrible because, well, we're in the north. But again, I'm just considering the fact that we're in Georgia. So like maybe people there see it as Southern pride. The people who founded the school see it as Southern pride and didn't directly try to make it as something offensive, but just something that represents something that they're proud of because that's what their ancestors fought for. Again, I understand that like not everybody's going to be okay with it. Somebody's going to be offended by it. So you can't please everyone, but some people just see it as something positive instead of something related to slavery.
Also, some people you could change some people's minds about like the whole Confederate flag controversy, and now make some people see the good in it instead of the bad.
But can you make some people that think it's good see the bad in it?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, in the South, has this been used as a symbol for Southern pride?
Yes.
Yes.
Has it been used as a symbol for racism and hatred?
Yes.
Right? And it's not like it's an offensive flag. Like to a lot of you, that flag back there is offensive. All right? But that's about football. This is about race. A long history of racial, division. And if it upsets a certain part of the population, should it be banned? I mean, is there another symbol that is as divisive as this in our country? about something that's really, really like
Yeah, I was gonna
important.
say it's
Is the Nazi symbol really divisive? I mean,
you know it's bad. Well, no
Right.
one goes like, no one goes like,
It
maybe
does.
no one goes like, oh, this symbol represents the third ration or whatever.
You know, because the thing is too, if you look at it, I mean, what does that symbolize?
That's the
That's the
Yeah, that's the
peace one
Hindu
for
symbol for peace, right? This is the Nazi symbol. But if you saw this, walking into anything, what would you think?
Why the heck is that there?
Right. I mean, think about, if this was put on anything in public right now, like spray painted on something, what would people think? Oh my God, that's hate, right? Couldn't that be the comparable to this for a I don't know what size segment of our population? I haven't seen, it depends on where you are, it depends on your perspective, but isn't this as hateful as that to some people? And if it's as hateful as that to some people in a community, should it be allowed?
There's always going to be like two opinions about something.
Yeah.
It's either going to be positive
I
or
feel like this
negative.
swastika is like more divisive than, there's more people who see that as like an awful.
Yeah.
So it's actually less divisive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like.
It's not really
I
controversial.
feel
That
like
one's pretty much
Everybody
clear
knows.
cut,
Like,
right?
it goes,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
well, we
That's
should be
bad.
allowed to
But
have that
this-
because it's the symbol of something.
But this is a little
Yeah.
dicier.
that
However,
symbolizes because the swastika symbolizes the Nazis, and this can symbolize
This can
symbolizes the
symbolize
Confederacy.
But then again,
But
it
what
symbolizes
is-
something.
what
But
is
to who
Confederacy, though?
it symbolizes Confederacy to who?
Yeah.
Who in the South? White Southerners.
Also,
Where is the largest percentage of our black population in the United States? Still living in the South.
I think that like today there are still a lot of things where people are like Dylan Roof, for example, who shot 9 African Americans and then took pictures with the Confederate flag. So if he's associating himself with that, I don't think that it's doing any positive for like the school, and I don't think that if we had a Confederate flag hanging up and then we saw something like that, like I wouldn't want to be represented with that when I go to sporting events. Also, if something's not doing like any good for anyone, why would you want it? Because there's no benefits of it. It's just doing negative things, and like, why would you want to keep something like that?
It's basically like dividing your students' opinions to have there's only like not like a handful, but a lot of people do believe that this is like heritage. This is all about Southern heritage. It's like it's symbolism all in one word to describe that flag. But also we have to be considerate of other people's opinions, and this basically would lead division of opinions in the whole entire community near the school. And why not just get rid of it so that everyone could like come to compromise and make maybe a different Southern mascot that wouldn't be as controversial as this.
Is there a compromise then?
No.
Because if it's banned,
Because
if it's allowed, is one group very, very offended?
yes.
Yes, I mean offended to the core almost, because it's a symbol of hatred and racism. If it's banned, if it's not allowed, is one group really, really offended? Because what has been taken away? Symbol of their heritage, their ancestry, because that group sees it and looks at it in a different way.
But Mr. Taft,
Is there a compromise?
if we get rid of, well, let's say the mascot gets eliminated,
Mhm.
completely something the opposite of a rebel, completely, let's say
So it's not just get rid of the plantation owner; it's get rid of
the whole,
the term mascot.
get rid of
the
term
mascot
rebel.
rebel.
Get rid of it. Let's say we turn it into a bird, like the Falcons or something like that.
Sure.
All right. The need for the Confederate flag at the school premise will be completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
Why should one bring the flag then? That's essentially like, let's say I'm going to a Packers game and I'm going to bring an American flag.
Well,
That
people do
doesn't-
that,
People do it, but does it really make the most sense?
but
Okay,
it's
cheese has nothing to do with Packers, but
Exactly.
we're in Wisconsin, so they wear cheese heads because
Well, 'cause
Wisconsin
the
is known for
Packers
cheese.
and-
right.
Exactly.
So in this, if it's a southern place, and
They'll-
it's would they bring something that symbolizes to some people of the South?
Yes. And I feel like even if you take away the mascot, some people might still associate the flag with the school since it's been used for so many years. So they'll still bring it.
Yeah, it's like the
So
tradition.
But the flag
it's
wasn't
like
the
a
symbol of the
tradition.
school.
The flag
No,
wasn't the
it
symbol of the school,
wasn't.
correct.
Flag was.
I know that the
It
flag
was to
wasn't
embellish
like the symbol,
mascot.
but
as the
just
cheese
because
heads.
the mascot is taken away does not mean that the flag will be gone. Because if it's tradition to the school, people will continue to bring it, no matter if the mascot's there or not.
But I think it's more of tradition to the South, and this is tradition. Their mascot was tradition for the South. So I think that it would be. I mean, I think there probably would still be some people who would bring it, maybe almost as like a protest of the Rebels mascot being changed. But ultimately, I think it'll probably just die out by itself.
So Volley brought it up about the University of Mississippi. Okay, this was the University of Mississippi mascot. Colonel Rep. Here's a good. Where's the? There's Colonel Reb at a football game. And there's Colonel Reb. All right. I mean, I just photoshopped the whole miss off the mascot. That's where I got it. So he is no longer though the mascot. This is a good example because part of the problem was here's Ole Miss, Colonel Reb, who would be trying to fire up the crowd at a basketball game in the SEC, which was predominantly the athletes in football and basketball in the SEC are African Americans. I mean, 90% maybe, I don't know the exact number, but probably at least in basketball. And it got to be a little bit, people were saying, hey, this doesn't jive, this doesn't make sense. Because can you associate, is this directly associated with slavery?
Yeah.
However, when you guys looked at that mascot, when you look at him right away, do you directly associate him with slavery?
No.
The first time you saw him.
Not like
No.
right
What do you directly associate him with?
An old white racist guy.
No,
I mean, you don't know he's racist, but
What most people,
look at
what would
him.
most people directly associate him with?
A
Right
fancy
away?
dude.
A fancy.
Every other class said fried chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Colonel Sanders.
Because my point is we put value into symbols
Yeah.
and words and things like that. And there's not really some sort of value in this. If we flipped it and it was white, a white shirt and a black tie, you instantly would say what? Colonel Sanders, fried chicken. And those silly commercials that are going on. Seem like we have put a value into this symbol now, so much so that this symbol has lost its original value. We've also put a value in this symbol, right here, this Confederate flag, because this is not the Confederate flag.
Confederate battle flag.
It's the Confederate battle flag. What's the Confederate flag?
It's
It's
the one
like
with
stars
like
and
the
bars.
7 stars and like the 2 stripes.
Yeah, it's called the Stars and Bars. All right, here's the
Like that.
Confederate flag. It looks like this. Red, white, red. 7 stars originally, then 11 stars, and then also there was 13 stars because they wanted to add a star for Missouri and Kentucky. Missouri and Kentucky sent troops on both sides and trying to say that they were part of the Confederacy. They tried to secede, but they failed. So this is that. But as we talked about earlier in the year, kind of messed up with in battle. It kind of looked similar. So eventually they came up with this battle flag. So this battle flag with this cross, the Southern Cross, this is the cross of St. Andrew. This was the people who, this was flown along with other flags, soldiers who fought in the war. Most of whom did not have slaves. Most of whom, or many of whom, were fighting for reasons way different than slavery, correct?
Mhm.
But is that what people think of today?
No.
Has this become symbolic of?
Not everybody knows like we do the real.
Right.
Yeah.
Not everybody does, and here's the proof. And I guess let me step back real quick. Was this intended to represent opposition to slavery?
No.
Or I mean opposition to integration, or was it anything really about race?
No.
Okay, now, things have evolved though. Okay? Because if you look at Mississippi, this is Mississippi's state flag. They changed it to that in 1894. All right? It was, they wanted to introduce a Confederate symbol on their state flag. And since then, it's over 200. It's over 100 years, and there have been repeated bills that have been put in to try to change it, and the people of Mississippi has kept that. That's their flag today, flying over Mississippi. The interesting one is Georgia. This was Georgia's flag from 1956 to 2001. It was it was changed from what Georgia's flag was, which was red, white, red, and blue on the side. So this was red, white, red. It was changed to this in 1956 because the white legislature of Georgia was upset that the national government was telling them that they had to integrate their schools. So they basically said, well, here's how we feel. We're going to change our flag
And is that where
as a
that
symbol.
started?
That's where this flag came from. And this flag had been used by other groups by that time. So now it's not only becoming, and by the 50s, it was not only becoming a symbol of rebellion and Southern pride, but why did they add it on there? Because of the issue of integration and race.
So is that when it really started to become like a symbol of?
Well, that's that was the third rise of the Klan, and that's when the symbolism of it's probably changing even more and more and more. What's interesting about this is in 1996, Georgia had the Olympics in Atlanta, and this flag was not allowed to be flown over Olympic venues. So the International Olympic Committee is basically saying that flag is too controversial or it's racist. There was going to be an economic boycott, all this. So the governor of Georgia changed the flag to this. There was signed a bill real quickly. He didn't do it necessarily himself, but the Georgia legislature changed it real quick. And then it just says Georgia's history. It's got all the flags that have flown over Georgia. So instead of this being really big, it's really, really small. It's just kind of Georgia's history. The people were all up in arms about it, and the governor lost his re-election bid in part for changing the flag. And Georgia made a new flag, which is now this. Is that controversial? What is it? It's the Confederate flag. It's basically the flag that was created by the states that seceded from the United States, and you read their secession statements, and why did they secede?
So they could keep slavery.
All of them mention slavery, right? The first 7 mention slavery to one degree or another.
But is there a lot of controversy about that flag?
Why is there not? Why would you look at that flag and go, huh?
Because it looks like the American flag, sort of.
It's one reason. Why else?
Because people
associate
think
that
about
with
a flag
that.
instead.
Because we put value in things, and we associate this flag now with something totally different. And most people don't know it because they don't know the story of the flag and how the flag has changed, how the views of it.
So wait, what's in the middle of that flag of the star?
That right here,
Yeah.
that's the Georgia state crest or state seal. And when you look at state, it's interesting. You look at state flags. Is this very controversial?
Yeah.
In a way.
Why?
It's the same.
It looks alike.
It looks pretty
It's
They're
similar.
like color scheme and stuff.
Red, white, and blue, same color scheme. So we gotta get rid of red, white, and blue flags.
We have red, white, and blue in our
We have a
national
red
flag.
flag.
Oh, that's right, we do. I forgot about that.
And the
Yeah.
stars in our national
Exactly. In
flag.
fact, a lot of states have red, white, and blue in their flags.
No.
All right. But so if you look at this is interesting. This star represents France. The star represents Spain. The star represents the United States. The 3 flags that have flown over Arkansas. This star represents the Confederate States.
Yikes.
Controversial.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, only.
There are a lot of people pushing to get rid of the Arkansas flag.
No.
Why not?
They
Because
don't
it's
really
not
know
a-
if it's
Nobody
a
knows
battle
that.
flag.
All right. And then there's the whole South Carolina thing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Thanks for
So
this
South Carolina, on the State House of South Carolina, the capital, they used to have the American flag, the state flag of South Carolina, which has a palmetto tree and a moon, and then the third flag below that was the Confederate battle flag. That was put up there in 1962 in the height of the Civil Rights Movement, basically as a statement to the national government about civil rights, oncoming civil rights legislation, integration, and the national government telling the South what they had to do, primarily in the area of race. it was pushed. They pushed to take it down in the early 2000s, late 1990s.